Mr. Speaker, on Tuesday, the Rules Committee met and reported a rule, House Resolution 577, providing for consideration of H.R. 2203, the Homeland Security Improvement Act, H.R. 3525, the U.S. Border Patrol Medical Screen Standards Act, and House Resolution 576, the expressing the sense of the House of Representatives with respect to the whistleblower complaint of August 12, 2019, made to the Inspector General of the Intelligence Community under closed rules. For H.R. 2203 and H.R. 3525, the rule provides 1 hour of general debate, equally divided and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee on the Homeland Security for each bill. The rule provides House Resolution 576, 1 hour of general debate, equally divided and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. The rule also provides blanket suspension authority for the legislative day of Thursday, September 26, 2019, and standard recess instructions for the district work period from September 30th to October 14th. At the end of this debate, I will be offering an amendment to the rule to replace the text of House Resolution 576 with the text of Senate Resolution 325, a bipartisan resolution which passed the Senate unanimously yesterday. Both of these resolutions urge that the complaint be transmitted immediately to the intelligence committees as required by law. In our Rules Committee meeting last night, several of my Republican colleagues suggested that they would prefer that we take up the Senate-passed language. To ensure that this Congress speaks with one voice, clearly and unequivocally, on this urgent matter, we will be amending the rule to do just that. Mr. Speaker, we are here today to debate the rule for 3 important pieces of legislative business, which I will address serially. House Resolution 576, with the text of Senate Resolution 325, H.R. 3525, and H.R. 2203. By now, every member of this body is well aware of the whistleblower complaint that was filed to the Intelligence Community Inspector General following a call President Trump had with the President of the Ukraine. These types of complaints are far from unheard of, and the law states that the complaint must be turned over to the House and Senate Intelligence Committees. However, the Inspector General has testified that the Acting Director of National Intelligence blocked the complaint after consulting with the Department of Justice from being turned over to Congress despite the complaint fitting the requirements for being turned over under the law. The way this complaint was handled by the Trump administration was a stark violation of that whistleblower law, which states that the Director of National Intelligence shall provide Congress with the full whistleblower complaint. In addition to breaking the law, this corruption sends a strong and chilling message to would-be whistleblowers that their courage and sacrifice in speaking out against impropriety and corruption will not be valued if it's not politically expedient. Yesterday, the Senate voted by unanimous consent to pass a non-binding resolution directing the Trump administration to hand over the whistleblower report filed against President Trump, reportedly, to House and Senate Intelligence Committees. The fact that Senator McConnell allowed this resolution to go to the floor should show House Republicans that there is a point where you must stop turning a blind eye to this administration's betrayal of our Constitution, our country, and our national security. It is a sad day when Congress needs to pass a resolution to obtain documents that we have an absolute right to see. But this type of conduct is part of a pattern of obstruction by this administration that we've seen time and time again. Allowing the intelligence committees to see the complaint and interview the whistleblower is essential to our national security. Furthermore, this resolution shows as a show of support and solidarity with whistleblowers. If we allow partisanship to deter whistleblowers from acting, we risk undermining a necessary check on an unrestrained administration. It's imperative that these brave Americans are protected and their concerns are heard. It is also worth noting that these whistleblower protections were negotiated and implemented with bipartisan support over multiple administrations. Protecting the integrity of our national security is vitally important. I urge my Republican colleagues to follow the lead of their Senate counterparts and join us in passing this resolution so that Congress can properly meet its constitutional oversight duties. Also subject to this rule are 2 Homeland Security measures. First, H.R. 2203, the Homeland Security Improvement Act, is a timely and necessary bill to address our nation's immigration and security challenges at the southern border in a responsible and humane way. This legislation will assure accountability, transparency, and oversight in the agency responsible for monitoring and securing our nation's borders. Further, the bill establishes an ombudsman for border and immigration-related concerns with the Department of Homeland Security. This additional oversight in the Department of Homeland Security will bring a much-needed level of independent accountability to DHS and ensure that the agent's employees working at our border are performing their duties to the highest possible standard. There's no doubt that these border security jobs are demanding and intense, and the creation of an independent, neutral, and confidential process to address complaints will help both the agents and employees working at the border as well as the individuals they process. This bill also creates a border communities liaison appointed by the Ombudsman in conjunction with the Office for Civil Rights and Civil Liberties at DHS to operate in each Border Patrol sector along the northern and southern borders. The liaison will be charged with fostering cooperation between ICE, CBP, and surrounding border communities, relationships that have become increasingly strained and distrustful in recent months. In addition, the Ombudsman will be required to conduct annual evaluations of all training given to ICE and CBP agents and officers. One of the many concerns that I heard from ICE and CBP agents during my trips to the border is that they are not given adequate training and resources to properly do their jobs under current conditions. It's clear that this administration has created chaos at the southern border by instituting policies that prioritize political fear-mongering over addressing the humanitarian crises in Central America. This is unacceptable given the complex challenges border agents face every day, and an annual assessment of their training will serve to better equip these men and women for their very difficult jobs. Another area where DHS is lacking is utilizing advancements in technology that could improve outcomes for both border agents and migrants. This bill mandates that the Ombudsman, in coordination with the CBP Commissioner, ICE Director, and ORR, develop recommendations for an electronic tracking number system to keep track of children in U.S. custody. The wholly inhumane practice of separating children from their parents is preventable, and tracking the location of a child who's been separated from his or her parents or guardians will help ensure that no child is ever again in custody alone and unaccounted for at our southern border. Finally, this bill requires the Ombudsman to submit to Congress a plan for requiring the use of body-worn cameras by U.S. Border Patrol agents and ICE officers when they're engaged in border security and immigration enforcement activities. This is a long overdue step. Body cameras are already used by state and local police departments around the country and have served to improve justice outcomes for the individuals who come into contact with the police and provide a level of oversight that is greatly needed at the border. Mr. Speaker, House Democrats are committed to passing legislation that will improve conditions at the border and better ensure the safety of agents and employees who work there, as well as the safety of migrants they come into contact with. Increased accountability is necessary to improving the situation at the border, a situation, I might add, that my Republican counterparts continuously say needs addressing. This bill is a chance for that added accountability. I commend my colleague, Representative Escobar from El Paso, for her hard work and dedication on this issue, and Chairman Thompson and the Homeland Security Committee for their thoughtful consideration of H.R. 2203. The second Homeland Security bill in today's rule is H.R. 3525, the U.S. Border Patrol Medical Screening Standards Act. In December of 2018, Jacqueline, age 7, and Felipe, age 8, both passed away in the custody of U.S. Border Patrol. Following their deaths, CBP announced new medical screening procedures for children, but despite this, 4 more children have since passed away in federal custody. Let's be clear that we're addressing an issue that has emerged with the implementation of the Trump administration's inhumane border policies. No child died in CBP custody for the entire decade preceding 2018. But we have seen 6 in the last 10 months. CBP facilities must be better equipped to provide medical attention for individuals in U.S. custody, particularly children. One critical component of addressing the new reality is an initial health screening to identify acute or pressing medical issues that need immediate or follow-up attention. H.R. 3525 builds upon legislation passed by the House in July of this year by directing DHS to research innovative approaches to address capability gaps for providing medical screening at the border and mandates the implementation of an electronic health record system. DHS medical professionals and other medical caregivers at the border have spoken of how much they need an electronic health system for CBP. In fact, this was the genesis of the bill following Representative Underwood's visits to the border. This bill requires DHS to make concerted process improvements, including research done in consultation with national medical professional associations who have expertise in emergency medicine, nursing, pediatric care, and other relevant medical skills. Upon completion of this research, DHS must submit a report to Congress on its recommendations for improving medical screening, access to emergency care, and steps the department plans to take in response. Within 90 days of this enactment, DHS must establish an electronic health record system that can be accessed by all DHS components operating on our borders. ICE already has their own electronic health record system in place, and it's time CBP upgraded its capabilities as well. The deaths that have occurred on our borders are a stain on our nation, and current medical screening processes are clearly not enough. An Inspector General report released a few weeks ago highlighted the challenges that ORR is having in addressing the mental health needs of those children released by CBP to ORR. Though this bill deals with CBP, many of the issues transfer from agency to agency with the children. The trauma for these children begins when they're forced to flee their birth countries and is exacerbated by the journey to the U.S., which for many is marked by violence, sexual abuse, hunger, and sleep deprivation. Once they finally arrive in the U.S., they then may be separated from their parents, if that didn't happen along the original journey, causing further trauma. Medical professionals are clear that these children are going to have lifelong trauma. They need a detailed medical record of the care they receive or do not receive while in U.S. custody so that they can receive adequate follow-up care. The IG report noted as well that the facilities where we house these children have not employed sufficient numbers of essential mental health clinicians. This results in higher caseloads for staff and worse outcomes for these afflicted children. The electronic health record system required by this bill will ensure that medical information does not get lost, help track when follow-up appointments are necessary, and prevent duplication of medical services due to lost or incomplete records once children are transferred to ORR custody. This bill is the result of Representative Underwood's leadership and engagement with the treatment of migrants at our border, and I commend her for her efforts. These two Homeland Security bills provided for in this rule will modernize the Department of Homeland Security and support better outcomes for border agents, employees, and migrants who come into U.S. custody. House Democrats understand the need to provide the Department of Homeland Security with the resources it needs to effectively do its job. And I urge my Republican colleagues to vote for this legislation to support all those who work and live by the border.